Hey everybody, this is David with Mosaic Wellness and Education. And today we're talking about whether astral projection makes you feel good. It's kind of a funny question to ask. It's one that people can kind of overlook, but I actually think it's really important because since here at Mosaic we talk about out of body experiences, not just as a curiosity, not just as something to read about or learn about, but as something to do, something to practice, something to work toward improving the quality of your out of body experiences, it makes sense that we would want to think about it in terms of how does that fit into our emotional experiences? How does that fit into our sensational experiences? I can think of it a little bit like going to the gym. If you enjoy going to the gym, if you look forward to doing it, if you enjoy yourself when you're at your gym, and if you feel better after going to the gym, and if you have positive associations with going to the gym, well, then you'll be much more likely to keep doing it. I think the same thing about our jobs, right? And our 9 to 5 jobs. I think it's so important to enjoy your job, regardless of what it is, right? Finding the job that you're able to enjoy doing because you're going to be there for a long time anyways. So if it could be something that you enjoy doing, that can be life-changing in terms of how much you can grow at that job and how much you can get out of it. So the same idea, I think, applies to astral projection. Out-of-body experiences, does it leave us feeling good? And even calling that out, thinking about whether it makes us feel good, can reframe how we look at our practice and how we approach developing and improving our practice over time and what we want to bring into it. So I have 5 ways that the practice of astral projection actually does make us feel good. It actually has positive sensations associated with it. It's something that does sort of self-reinforce, and it can provide us benefits in different ways. So the first one I'm going to talk about is the key. For me, this is probably the number one thing that really is decisive for me in thinking about astral projection as something that makes us feel good. And that is the change in frequency of energy between living our day-to-day life and transitioning to being lucid outside of the body. And it's not just a matter of flipping a light switch that you start to come out of the body and then suddenly your frequency shifts, but actually by practicing the out-of-body experience, by attempting to have an out-of-body experience successively over several nights, by dedicating ourselves to it, making it a goal, we actually start to understand the difference between our frequency of energy here in our normal day-to-day, and we start to understand what's the difference between this frequency in the physical and the frequency we would have when we're outside of the body. And that difference actually allows you to take some notes and make some realizations that when I'm here inside the body in my day-to-day life, maybe I have a tendency to move my energies in a certain direction. That is to say, focus my thoughts, focus my feelings, focus my ideas, create certain fixations, create certain attachments. And we may start to notice that when we try to leave the body, we'll start to realize that certain patterns that we have with our energy, and note that when I talk about energy, our energy is just a reflection of our actions, our intentions, our thoughts, our feelings. Our energy is kind of just a reflection of how we manifest on this sort of energetic, subtle energy context. But so we start to realize there's certain things we do, certain ways we behave in our day-to-day life that might be making our frequency of energy a little different. And then when we adjust ourselves to trying to leave the body, both during the practice at night, but even during the day when we think about it, we can find that it has the effect of revealing to us opportunities that we can change how we hold ourselves, change our postures, change some of our habits, change some of our patterns, so that we start to feel a little bit more in tune with that lucid outside the body frequency, which really translates to being more aware of ourselves, being more aware of our environment, being more aware of our energies. So it actually is instructive, and it feeds into our own personal growth as individuals. It helps us to start to understand our energetic ecosystem and how we play into it. But even in terms of just plain feeling good, when we do try to leave the body, if we work ourselves up to that point that we disconnect from the physical body and we start to separate with lucidity, we do start to reach that level of frequency. And when I say level of frequency, I just mean the characteristics of energy, the characteristics of manifestation, where we are being more lucid in a multidimensional sense, being more aware in a multidimensional sense. And that more balanced, more healthy condition has a positive feeling associated with it. So the more we bring ourselves into a balanced, healthy, aware, energetic state, the more of a naturally positive sensation we're going to feel with ourselves, with our lives. So I would say just the frequency of projecting in and of itself is the first way that projecting can make us feel good, right? And wrapped up in that is this idea that we're actually going to be able to learn about ourselves a little bit and even grow as multidimensional people through the astral projection practice, kind of like as a byproduct of it or as an opportunity there. So the next thing, let's wind back a little bit. Let's rewind a little bit. And before we are leaving the body, something that you may notice, something that a lot of people notice, is that as they start to try to leave the body, when they're laying down, attempting to take off, they may notice that throughout their body, specifically throughout their energetic body, their energetic system, there are certain blockages and certain fixations, certain attachments, certain imbalances. And by trying to leave the body, by trying to move through the process of getting from in the body to out of the body with lucidity, we wind up resolving some of those blockages. We wind up retuning and rebalancing our energetic system by trying to leave the body. So that's the second way that we can feel good as a result of our astral projection practice. That is, when we try to leave the body with lucidity, we wind up unblocking and rebalancing our energetic system, a lot of times just implicitly. So as we're relaxing, trying to stay lucid, trying to stay focused, trying to exit the body, we may start to feel some blockages, some imbalances that start to correct themselves naturally, almost the way that doing yoga or doing stretches starts to unblock or recalibrate our physical body to some degree. So we can have a similar experience when trying to leave the body. And then that unblocking is going to leave us feeling clear, feeling clean, with clarity of thought and clarity of mind and what have you. The third way that an astral projection practice can leave us feeling good is even a little bit before that, or sort of in a more general sense. In my experience, and I think in the experience of a number of people, when we make it a goal to try to leave the body, to pursue understanding and experiencing our multidimensional nature and our multidimensional world with greater clarity, with greater maturity, we feel a sense of hopeful optimism. We feel good about our lives. We feel good about ourselves because we have a goal that we're trying to achieve. And we know that this goal is actually going to deepen our relationship with life. There's a sense of a mystery. There's a sense of exploration. There's a sense of intrepidness. So simply trying to have the practice, having the goal of leaving the body with lucidity in and of itself can create a sort of optimistic feeling in us. I know that for me, that's really created a sense of optimism in those times in my life when I was really focused on trying to achieve a goal. And I would say this applies to most any goal related to multidimensional growth of ourselves. When we have a goal that we clearly care about and we're going for it, in my experience, in my opinion, what actually winds up happening, and it depends on how you do it. It depends on your particular relationship with your goal. Why did you make that goal? How did you make that goal? What are the dynamics around that goal? But in a lot of cases, what happens is you wind up connecting to sort of a multidimensional evolutionary process within yourself. And this makes you feel alive, and this makes you feel whole, and this makes you feel centered. So there's a sort of existential sense of wellness and contentment from my experience, that comes from engaging our multidimensional evolution. It's like connecting to a part of ourselves that we don't always have a connection to, and connecting to and supplying energy to a process that's not always being facilitated by ourselves. So often I find that when we connect to that multidimensional evolutionary process inside of ourselves, we wind up feeling better in general. We have a positive, hopeful, optimistic feeling about life. So the fourth way that astral projection leaves us feeling good is the day after, the morning after. When we tried to leave the body at night, during that process, we wound up, as I mentioned, unblocking a bit our energies, trying to achieve that lucid state outside the body, which winds up qualifying, clarifying, increasing sort of the quality and the awareness and the balance of our energetic field, such that when we wake up the next morning, we often feel very clear, even if we didn't succeed in fully leaving the body. And I put success in big, huge, bold quotes, because success can be defined 100 different ways when it comes to leaving the body, right? Just because you didn't have a lucid takeoff and a bunch of experiences that you remember that align with your expectations doesn't mean it's not successful. Anyways, going back, if we try to leave the body before we go to sleep, you could do that during the day as well, right? But for a number of people, it's something they might do at night before they go to sleep. And then going to sleep afterwards, you'll wake up often feeling more refreshed the morning after, because your energies are more blocked, because your energies are more balanced. I meant to say your energies are more unblocked. So you often wake up feeling more refreshed, more clear-headed the morning after you tried to leave the body the night before. And the last thing I want to mention, and this is something that we don't always talk about a lot, but you do see it in a lot of out-of-body accounts, is the feeling of exhilaration and liberation that comes with the lucid out-of-body experience. When people have a lucid out-of-body experience, it really does vary. It's not always the case, but in a lot of cases, there's really magical, kind of exhilarating, effervescent sensations, feelings when outside of the body. Part of this video was inspired by something I was reading, Sylvan Muldoon's Projections of the Astral Body. This is a book from 1929. It's still one of the best books on out-of-body experiences that exists. But in the introduction by Hereward Carrington, he cites another person's experience where they talk about having an out-of-body experience, and they say, "It seemed for an instant as though I had become unconscious. When I came out of this state, I seemed to be walking in the air. No words can describe the exhilaration and freedom that I experienced. No words can describe the clearness of mental vision. At no time in my life had my mind been so clear or so free." And this is something that we see a lot. It doesn't happen in every single out-of-body experience that you have, but it does happen that we can have very exhilarating, liberating experiences. And another side of that as well is sometimes people have experiences that are so lucid outside the body that they go, I know that wasn't a dream, because being back in the body, this feels like the dream. Because the experience I just had outside the body felt more real than this, because my lucidity was so enhanced, because my awareness was so clear, because my mind was so clear, so open, and so expanded. So there's a number of different positive, exhilarating experiences we can have during out-of-body experiences themselves. So I wanted to highlight these positive experiences, these good feelings that we can have when we're outside of the body or associated with an astral projection practice, so that we can start to see it as a little more than something exotic and something occult, but something that really might just be an enjoyable wellness practice, a form of self-care, something that improves our quality of life, not because it's some crazy heady thing that's reframing our whole notion of reality every time we do it, but even just because it's something that brings positivity into our lives. And I think that's a really cool, really valuable aspect of astral projection. So if you found this helpful, if you think that you want to try that out for yourself, give it a go. Chase down some of those good vibes yourself. You can check out, we have an ebook with Mosaic Wellness and Education. So you go to mosaicwe.com/passport. That's our astral passport. It's like a short 20 or 30 page ebook. You can download it on your phone in PDF or EPUB format, and you can read through it, and it will give you some good ideas and some motivation and some guidance on how to have your own firsthand experiences. So guys, give that a go. And thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.